Good evening, everyone. This is the Wednesday, January 21st, 2026 meeting of the Rockport School Committee meeting. We're here in the library, and this meeting is being recorded so that it can be viewed later by anyone who is interested. Perhaps we should start with introductions. Mr. Lorenz.
Mark Lorenz, School Committee member.
Nicole Altieri, School Committee Vice Chair.
Amy Oakes, School Committee Chair.
Good evening, Mark Branco, Superintendent.
Jamie Teitelbaum, School Committee Member.
And our colleague Jess DeLisi apologizes. She's not able to be with us tonight. All right, so I think we should move on to the minutes of January 7th. Hope everybody's had a chance to take a look at those. Do we have a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Are there any adjustments to the minutes?
I'll second it.
Second. Are there any adjustments to the minutes? Sorry about that. Okay. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. That passes. Public comments. Do we have any public comment tonight? No. All right. We'll move right along to correspondence. Dr. Branco?
None at this time.
How about donations?
Again, none at this time.
A personnel update, perhaps?
None at this time.
That's all right. Share the success. I noticed that our student advisory committee rep, Charlie Tellis, is not with us tonight, but
So my
Dr. Branco,
my
perhaps?
hope is he's studying for his mid-year exams because that's happening this week. So
Good luck,
I
Charlie,
have a
if
few-
you're out there.
Good luck to all of our high school students prepping.
Good.
So we do have midterm exams this week at the high school. We have the middle school musical, which is Matilda, and that's going up Thursday night, Friday night, and Saturday afternoon this week.
And who's playing drums in the pit? The superintendent is. Thank you so much.
The junior post-secondary planning night is coming up on January 27th. Middle school dance, if you're anybody's interested in chaperone on that one, January 30th at 6 p.m. And the district band summit concert is on January 29th. So please check the district calendar. There's a lot of events, and our winter sports are well underway at this point. And I believe all of our basketball teams are actually away this week. So I think next week everybody comes back home if you want to check out a home game.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Dr. Branco. That brings us to unfinished business. I think you're going to talk a little bit more about your fiscal year 27 budget development.
So we are. So again, for the public who are viewing the slides or the meetings for the first time, I'll step us through the slides that we have used at past meetings, just so that we can make sure we reiterate some of the format. And then there's some new information tonight that has been refined in the budget compared to our last meeting. So here's our timeline. We're still shooting for our February 4th public presentation for the public budget hearing and for you all to take a vote as a committee. And then after that, we'll have some time to really put everything together, talk to people about the budget, and make sure that it gets publicly presented at the town meeting on April 11th. Just a quick reminder that we represent our students. They are the one group of constituents who cannot vote for the budget, and they are also the group of individuals who are most impacted by the budget. We are in our fourth year of using a zero-based budgeting format, which simply means we don't roll over the numbers from one year to the next. We take a really close look as a leadership team at what the needs are of the district based on student needs, and we look at staffing and programmatic models, and then we build the budget up from there accordingly. So some lines will shift, as you've all seen already in the past, and some lines will decrease based on the needs of the district at the time. Two major components that make up the budget that the school district works under are the operating budget and the capital improvement. This budget that we're presenting is the operating budget, which is based on the appropriation from the town, as well as other funding sources that we will review tonight. And if you're interested in a cheat sheet of all those funding sources, how the budget is built, this is on the website and the slide decks, and it is in past iterations of the budget book as well. So you can take a look at that. It's a pretty decent one-pager for anybody who's interested in looking at how it's broken down. We continue to have the same goal. We're trying to develop a fiscally responsible budget that's really supporting the growth and achievement of all students. We're focusing on maintaining an inclusive culture that recognizes and responds to their needs, provides them with equitable access to high-quality experiences, and ultimately prepares them to be competitive for college and career, and helps them to really maximize their potential and positively impact our world. So that's a very large task that we have, but as many of us sitting at this table know, this is the future, and these will be the young people taking care of us as we move forward, and it's an important role that we play. Just a reminder that over the past 3 years, due to a response in declining enrollment and the rising cost of education, that we've really been engaged in the process of right-sizing the district. This is really the first year, now that we're in my fourth year, where we haven't had the discussion around right-sizing. We feel like that we have sort of gotten to the point where we are right-sized financially, staffing, and programmatically. But just as a reminder that as we developed the past 3 years of the budgets, that was accomplished by taking a look at staffing models and resources that led to reductions of $340,000, $1 million, and then $1.4 million over those times. And this has also resulted in a reduction of 32 positions over those 3 years. So we are happy to say that we're not in a position where we're looking at reducing positions with this current budget. And, you know, I think that when you talk about climate and culture and the importance of everybody wanting to come to school and to come to work, it's been a really satisfying year when it comes to staff culture. And I thank all of the staff in the school district for their positive attitude at this time. So I won't read the laundry list because many of us have seen it a lot, but this is just a short list of some of the things that while we spent a lot of time refining and right-sizing, we're really proud of the fact that we actually were able to enhance and make a lot of improvements in crucial areas throughout the school district. And again, this budget that we're about to build over the next couple of weeks and finalize at our next meeting also reflects some refinements and some improvements that we're taking a look at over time. That we believe right now that as we build the FY27 budget with the continued community support, which we are very, very appreciative for, that the district is well positioned budgetarily, staffing wise, and programmatically to provide our students with high quality educational environments. That is not to say that we're not going to have, you know, difficult times. It's not to say that we're not going to have any financial questions in the future. It's simply meant to say we've done a lot of hard work to get to where we are. We're proud of where we are. And as we build this budget, we feel like we're standing on solid ground financially. And every year we'll continue to do the best that we can to use the taxpayers' finances wisely. Leadership team has identified staffing and programmatic priorities over the past couple of months that you've seen in a couple meetings already, and we're going to talk about a new one tonight. And I believe we're probably done with that list, but I don't know that that's a promise I can make until our final meeting. So, but as of right now, we've done a lot of work on what the programmatic updates look like and why they're coming to fruition now. So we're going to take a look again. Did that not change on the screen? Oh, there it is. Let's take a look at the historical overview of our expenses, and so that you can see some changes over time that we talked about at our last meeting. You know, relatively speaking, it comes mostly from contractual requirements when you're looking at personnel, general expenses. The cost of many supplies and materials goes up every single year, almost regardless of what industry you're in. And transportation tuitions for out-of-district does fluctuate based on the number of students and the required services that they have. So when we take at the salaries and wages, you can take a look at the comps from the district-wide perspective. The elementary school, the middle high school, and special education, we talked about at our last meeting. Now we're taking a look at athletics, the buildings and grounds budget, and the transportation budget. And again, across the board, all salaries and wages really result in the contractual commitments that we have across the district and the reinstatement of the office clerk position that we talked about last meeting. What we didn't talk about at our last meeting is that the athletics increase is really a result of contractual commitments based on the updated RTA stipend format. So if you remember coming out of the RTA negotiations a couple years ago, last year we were asked to put together a study team that came together with the RTA and with the leadership to put together a new stipend proposal that you all then supported. So that new stipend format is in play. And so that's a result of those commitments. And as we talked about at the last meeting, we're keeping the special education line. It does include the school psychologist position. We will post, the hope is to aggressively post all positions shortly after the school committee approves the budget in February, so that we can get out ahead and really try to get some highly qualified candidates to apply for whatever positions we have in the district. So if you'd like, I can take a pause there, if that makes sense. If anybody has any questions, particularly around athletics, buildings and grounds, and transportation. All good? little more information to talk about on this slide. Again, when we talked about expenses at our last meeting, we focused on district-wide, elementary, middle, high school, and special education. Again, we look at athletics. You'll notice a considerable change in buildings and grounds, and you'll notice a change in transportation. So the district-wide decreases, as we talked about at the last meeting, are really a representative result from moving the teaching and learning expenses to the appropriate school levels, an increase in the association dues and memberships and travel conference lines, and an increase in our advertising and community outreach lines. On the other end of that, the elementary school and the middle high school increased because of the teaching and learning expenses being put there appropriately. And then the special ed decrease is a reduction in office expenses, contracted services, tutoring services, with an increase in transportation. And as Anne Marie will tell us every time she can, we never know what each month and each year is going to bring, particularly when it comes to special education. And so these are always our best estimates for that department every year. The athletics increase, which was not presented at the last meeting, is a result of an increase in ice time. Ice hockey is an expensive sport. We host that team, and as a result, it was an increase that we felt. Also, line paint, believe it or not, some of these costs just has gone up across the board. Scoreboard maintenance, which we don't always predict, and transportation costs, again, for our athletes to get off the island and out to away games. So that's where the athletic increase is from. The decreases in building and grounds and transportation are the result of Town Administrator Vieira and I working together to formulate a plan to have the town take over the responsibilities for all of the school department's fuel and power expenses, as well as the vehicle and transportation expenses. So that is what we believe a nice step to continue our charge to be fiscally responsible, to develop partnerships with the town, and we believe that that'll get us long-term gains when it comes to accessing materials and supplies, bulk purchasing, costs of fuel and heat and water, and all of the other components of running a municipal building that come with that. So to have all of those cost centers come under one umbrella from the DPW with the DPW leadership, we believe is actually going to really benefit the taxpayer financially and put forward some efficiencies over the first couple of years. So that's really the biggest thing that you see there, where you see the zero in transportation and the decrease in the buildings and grounds budget. So I'll take a pause there.
This is a good place to pause to make sure that we all understand and that we don't have any questions going down the line. So let's see if I can say what you just said. We're going to shift the cost of transportation, fuel, energy, supplies back over to the town so that the town will do our bidding for oil, oversee electricity, floor wax, paint, cleaning supplies, all that
So
stuff.
not the supplies.
Not the
Yeah,
supplies.
We'll maintain
Okay.
our supply lines still, and our Director of Buildings and Grounds will still maintain those supply lines. They'll take over fuel and power, all vehicle expenses, so school buses, mini buses, pickup trucks, what am I missing? So any school vehicles that we have, as well as the cost of the transportation vehicles, so through our maintenance of those vehicles.
Maintenance,
Yep.
gasoline, servicing,
Yep.
insurance? Insurance is already paid by the town.
You want to come up? Just in case you're on the mic, and grab that mic.
I just think it's worth asking enough questions
Yeah.
to make sure that we spend enough time on this
Yeah.
that anybody with any questions has a chance to ask. So it sort of looks like we've been really efficient, but in fact what we've done is we've shifted some costs. So if I'm a taxpayer listening to this, if I'm a Rockport resident and I'm wondering, oh, what does this mean? My sense is what this means is at the level of the tax bill that I have, it probably won't make much difference whether the fuel, somebody has to buy the fuel. We hope it'll be more efficient over time, but we don't expect to see somebody's tax bill go down, nor do we expect it to go up. This should be neutral to the taxpayer.
Minimally, yeah.
Minimally, but over time, we hope we'll be more efficient and we'll save a little money.
Correct.
Jim, does this make your world easier if you don't have to bid for fuel and all that stuff?
The town was already bidding, and then we were just given the price or what it was going to be. So it's the processing on the end. It frees Kirk up that he's not reviewing all that as well. I think it's one central location. I think it's a good idea for all town buildings and departments to be managed at one location, and then they could go out to bid down the road for something, and the schools are a giant part of it, so why not include it all in one?
So I remember a couple of years ago when we needed a new bus. And I remember you're talking with us about how hard it was to locate buses. And we felt we'd be lucky if we could find a used bus. And you found us a bus. Will the town know how to find a bus if that happens again? Or will they call you up and say, come over here and help us figure out how to find a bus?
Certainly could.
Okay.
Yes. It isn't that we're wiping our hands completely of all expenses with the buses. Of course, someone can reach out, and as I would reach out to them if I'm not an expert on electric or some sort of maintenance, which is obviously not my expertise, I would certainly call down to DPW, and they could obviously call up to us as well.
It also doesn't negatively impact the decision-making process of the school district, I think, which is an important thing to say. I know Monty Hitchell is here. So when you talk about technology purchases, the leadership team works with Monty and his team all the time to decide what's the best technology we need, how are we going to pay for it, is it coming out of the school budget or the town's tech budget, is it going to be shared expenses, is it going to be grants? But at the end of the day, the educators in the district are the ones leading those conversations. So we'll still be still leading the conversation about what vehicles do we need and don't we need, how are they going to be maintained and serviced. But then, I anticipate that being a very similar partnership when it comes to conversations.
Yes.
And then I had one more question, and I'm afraid, I know what I was going to ask. I'm sorry. And if you don't know the answer, that's okay. I don't mean to catch you by surprise. Are there other school systems that have arrangements like this with their towns?
They do. There's many different ways of doing it. Sometimes the DPW runs the whole department. Sometimes it's just the custodial cleaning. Sometimes it's this way, and then sometimes it's completely separate. There's really not one definitive way to do it. It's what works best for each individual town.
It is common in smaller communities, just simply because we're not in a city with 25 schools and so many departments that it becomes unruly.
So I think about this, and I think about what we write in The Loop. Each time we send that out in our newsletter, we say repeatedly that we believe it's possible to be smaller and smarter, more strategic, and find ways to partner so that we can do a better job with the resources that we have. And I know that that is the intent behind this. I just bring that up because we always say that, and I think this is an example of exactly what we're trying to get to. Are there questions or comments from other committee members? No. Okay. And thank you.
Good. So when we discussed the revenue history, this is our second draft of this as well, so you can take a quick look at all the different ways that the money comes in historically. Pretty flat, generally speaking, from FY26 to FY27. A little bit of an uptick in the school choice, and we'll talk about that here and again in more detail in February when we really have a detailed analysis of the current enrollment and the projected enrollment, because that'll all be in the budget book for us. So when we take a look at the revenues, these are all new now. This is revenues from grants and private donations. So this is the historical overview for you, and a little bit of bullets. So if Jody and Anne Marie would like to come up to the table, they're way better versed in answering questions related to revenues and grants and private donations, and working with June on how to manage all of it. So instead of me reading each bullet to you, I just wanted you to have those bullets in front of you so they correlate with the grants at the top, so you can see how we spend the money. And then if anybody has any particular questions about these, you have a captive audience.
Questions from the committee? Okay, thank you. Nicole?
I was just looking at the school choice revenue, which isn't one of the grants. But I know we've talked about sort of the numbers overall on Cape Ann. Am I looking at the right place? I'm
Back
sorry,
on
I'm
slide.
back on slide,
Yep.
on page 14. And sort of how the numbers we still are maintaining the same percentage of school choice. However, the numbers
Yep.
would decline as just sort of the total population of students all over our area goes down, but the school choice number has gone up. So I just found that interesting. Is that sort of a rollover, or is that a?
That's a carryover plus new revenue. So we plan on getting X amount in, which is lower than that, and then it also includes a draw-off of our reserves, which is school choice. It also could be circuit breaker, it could be a combination of both, but we are at this point going to have to start drawing from our reserves, and that's reflecting what we feel would be a combination of the two, of new revenue plus existing.
So, right, which is why I said a minute ago that we're actually going to present all of the school choice information at the next meeting.
Sorry,
Because
I
we don't
missed
have that
something.
in the slide deck.
Okay.
Right, this is just your historical overview of these lines. But in the budget book at the next meeting, if you recall, that's where we have the
That's in there.
breakout of
Okay.
all the
I had that
students.
marked from
what
earlier,
different,
so.
what districts they come from, what towns they go to and come from. And then you'll see the breakdown of Chapter 70, and you'll see the breakdown of school choice, and then you'll see the comp that shows how much of our reserves we have to use. And so all of those things are married together, which kind of equals this number.
Okay.
I don't mind
We'll
you
get
taking
more
the time to
detail
explain
in.
it a little
No,
more
if we're
you
going to
want
go over it, I'm sorry, I must have missed that. That was just something I had gone over when I was sort of looking
Yeah.
through, reading through my
Yeah,
packet.
that's the
something
school
I-
choice and the enrollment is the last piece that we haven't presented
Okay.
because we wait as long
That's
as we
fine.
can to
We
get
can-
real numbers.
If we're doing it next time, then that's,
Yep.
So this number is what we anticipate coming in, plus what we're going to take out of our current school choice amount that's sitting there in reserves. And we plan combined, that it should add up to the roughly 1.6 is what we will need in total.
And forgive me for not knowing this, but when we say we're taking out of our school choice reserve, is the school choice reserve part of the school district's reserve?
Yes.
Yep. So if you look on this slide, I just slipped back just to remind everybody, if you look back at number 2 on the right, reserve is made up of circuit breaker, which includes special ed transportation, and then school choice. So those buckets equal your reserve. So you'll see the breakout in the budget book, and when we go page by page and we go through the analysis of enrollment, which will include school choice, we'll also go through
It'll break it out
these
for
areas,
you.
and it'll all be broken out, right?
That number will be broken out further in another slide.
Again, we wait literally until about 3 days before that meeting to finalize all those numbers, because we had 3 children just move in. Within four children just move in. So I like to give you the latest
So
numbers.
this number will change.
It'll change again.
I had a quick question about the grants.
Yep.
On the federal grants on that page 15. Are those federal grants? Are they grants that you've applied for? Do you apply for them every single year, or are they more kind of a automatically?
They're entitlement grants.
Yeah,
But they're dependent on, there's federal grant funding, and then the state, it runs through the state, and then the money might change depending on that. And it is based on several different factors, one including town population and enrollment, the census data.
Just have a question. So if any of those factors change, would we not be eligible for one of those grants? Possibly?
We're still eligible, it's just the amount
would
changes
change?
every year.
Okay.
And then on the next page, I know in my head, but the competitive grants, those are the ones that are applied for. Yeah.
So if we move ahead, you'll see on the competitive grant section, and I'll have, if Jody wants to step us through this slide, if anybody has any questions. But this includes the Project Lead the Way programming, ST Math, and remember that we got the executive office earmark that covered portions of our roof replacement in the past. So if anybody has any questions about these.
Yeah, this is the third year of the Project Lead the Way high school expansion grant. So that amount will come in and we'll spend that for what we need for next year for professional development and course materials. The ST Math grant was a new grant that came in after last year's budget book, and that supports that grant over 3 years, both from the same foundation. We pay a $3,500 fee per year, but they're covering all the rest of the fees and all of the professional development that's connected with that. ST Math is our supplemental math program at the elementary school. And then the earmark grant was a legislative earmark for public schools. It's we have to spend at least $100,000 for the design and replacement of the middle high school roof. And I believe Senator Tarr was the one who put us
He was.
on the docket to get
Yep.
that money.
Yep. And then on the last slide, we have private donations.
Yes, this is the anonymous donor who we've spoken about before, who is supporting STEM initiatives and AI initiatives at both building levels. And this is he has signed an intent to donate this amount of money over these periods of years.
And the donors have given us flexibility. I think this is important to say. While they clearly have some ideas about how they'd like to see it used and they have recommendations, they've been great with Jody to make it really clear that if Jody comes back and says, listen, the departments would rather do A, B, and C, as long as it falls under this type of umbrella, that they've been very flexible with having those conversations.
In the Project Lead the Way grant, was it a 3-year grant, or is that, so this is the last?
This is the
third
last.
year,
We
the last
are seeking other grant funding in other areas. We're in the middle of the process of applying for a 3-year expansion grant for the middle school, the Gateway program. So all of the additions that you saw in the last presentation, last meeting, we're hoping that a lot of that can be funded through another 1A grant.
And this is sort of Project Lead the Way's business model too. They know that public schools are not in a position, many of us, to really shell out the cost that it takes to keep the programs up and running fully. So they're pretty engaged in the grant side of things.
And the intent is for us to find a way to make it sustainable without the grant money. So giving us those 3 years to do that really supports us to build the program at every level we want to.
So the next slide talks about our revenues from tuitions and then our revenues from other sources. We don't have an anticipated number for this year. Forget about next year, correct?
No. That depends on the enrollment of
Yep.
who signs up for
Yep.
preschool.
Yep.
That is not, that doesn't need mentors.
We have, the application process closes at the end of the month. We currently have 7 applications. So those are new, that's new enrollment for mentor students. Those students pay tuition. But there's also existing students who will not yet graduate to get.
And so each year the book is basically two years behind in the reporting. So we'll be able to show that it received for 25, and then in the next budget book it'll be the received for 26. And
Right. For
always moves
example,
forward.
I can say, year to date, we have brought in $41,000 in revenue as of today. For that, I should say that this money doesn't go right directly into the school budget, that the town, we help fund the special ed reserve fund that the town has set up for us, and part of the revenue stream is the preschool tuitions.
Athletics are pretty flat when you talk about user fees and gate receipts. We continue to have conversations. I anticipate coming back to the school committee. If it doesn't happen this spring, I think it'll happen early fall, to have more conversations about user fees, gate fees, ticket sales at events. Rockport is a unique place from a structural standpoint, meaning we don't have gated fields, we don't have stadiums, and so there are only certain contained environments like the ice hockey rink and the gym, really, where you can even control the ins and outs. So I know that Athletic Director Paris has started conversations with me on multiple occasions to have like a grander conversation. I did tell him eventually we'd come back to the committee with some thoughts and recommendations on that. But we also need to be conscious of money that does come in and how it does help to balance our budget. But who are we balancing the budget off of, I guess, is the conversation we want to continue to have. So that's just a commercial for later meetings. And then we talk about revenue from other sources. You can see here the special education circuit breaker, the school choice numbers, transportation user fees are pretty flatlined. And remind us about the Medicaid and why that's always in arrears as well.
That's in arrears. We report at least a quarter to 6 months in arrears. It's a third party that calculates it, And Medicaid reimbursement goes directly to the town. And this isn't unique to Rockport, this is everywhere. It will go directly into their general fund.
And is that why we have a special ed reserve fund at the town level? I think I've asked this question. And
No, this is, yes, the special ed reserve is at town level. The Medicaid is completely separate. It's a separate item.
thank you.
So any questions, thoughts around the revenue for tuitions, revenue from athletics, or for the other sources on this slide?
I'm sorry, did you just explain Choice Direct bill back for OD?
didn't.
Oh,
Actually, this-
okay.
What happens in this case is usually everyone's pretty familiar with the $5,000 plus additional formula for additional services. This is a school choice child that is deemed that needs to go to an alternative school outside of the district. And what's unique about this is that then the sending district, which would be another town on the North Shore, would be fully responsible for 100% of the cost of that education. So tuition, transportation, tutoring, any other services.
I'm going to ask you to say that again because in the past 2 weeks, I've had the very interesting experience of actively listening to many people in the community as I chatted about having paperwork signed in order to appear on the ballot. And this very topic came up. What happens when a child comes from another school system and subsequently needs to be sent out of district at some expense? So could you just say what you just said one more time, but even more slowly?
Yes.
Because I believe this might not be very well understood.
Sure. So a child has been sent by their parents to Rockport through school choice. Through determination, we need to place them in either a private school or a North Shore consortium. At that point, it is not the $5,000 plus a percentage. It is 100% of the cost of that child's needs. It has to be reimbursed to Rockport from that town that the child sleeps in.
Has that been the case for a long time?
Yes. Yes, it has. You may have no children in that. You may have 1 to a dozen. It varies all the time. And that covers everything. The transportation isn't a fraction, it's 100%. If they needed vision or speech therapy, 100%.
I so appreciate that. I have a phone call to make out to the community tomorrow. I really
Now,
appreciate it.
right,
Thank you.
Now, I can see you saying what I'm thinking in my head, right? So I'll let you say it.
I just said, that's all well and good, but it also goes both ways. We could have a child in another district.
Of course.
Their special ed team could determine that they require an out-of-district placement, and then we are on the hook for 100%. So, as great as that is, that June's explanation, I'm always careful to say that can go both ways. So we could find ourselves in the same position.
But I think there may be an incorrect perception out and about that somehow Rockport carries an extraordinary burden because children who don't sleep here go out of district. And so I appreciate the conversation, and obviously I'll be gentle when I go out and try to correct this misperception because I think it's out there.
And I think, we have 20 students currently out of district. 1 is school choice from another district. So
That's also really helpful. Thank you.
welcome.
Any other thoughts or questions on this one? So at the end of the full budget book in a couple weeks, you're familiar with this snapshot as well. What you'll see is the total expenditures less the total revenue, and that equates to the ask for the town. And so the draft deck that you had in your drive, I did change the final statement here just for clarity purposes, because I don't want anybody at this table and in the public to get confused that we are asking for a 3% increase from the FY26 budget to the FY27 budget. So last year, I believe we asked for 2.85 increase. This year, we're asking for 3.0. However, because the town is taking over fuel, power, transportation expenses for vehicles, we didn't want the that we didn't want the comp mathematically to be apples to oranges. So in order to make it apples to apples, June pulled all of those lines out of the FY26 budget for mathematical purposes so that she could figure out the 3% ask to get to the 14,612,650. So it's easy to explain, but it's potentially probably not easy to understand all the time. So we're going to play with, June's going to work on a different version of spreadsheets before we put the budget book out. The leadership team and I will probably look at multiple iterations of them. I might even run a few by the chair to see what seems to make sense before we put the final budget book together. I just want to make sure that in this room, we're really clear that what we are asking the taxpayers for is a 3% increase from FY26 to FY27. That is a factual 3%. We didn't want it to look like a 10%, or in this case, for us, it would look like a massive decrease. But it's actually
If
not.
we had kept the original number and not adjusted it appropriately to reflect what's being removed from our budget, it would look like we're asking for not even a 0.5%.
Right.
And then on the other side, it would look like the town is asking for the 10%, and that's not true
Not true
when it's a
either.
wash.
I don't know if this will come up at town meeting or if this will be a challenge, but I think it's really worth it just to slow down and to make sure people understand and to make sure taxpayers understand. So thank you for the attention to that.
So when we move ahead to programmatic and staffing priorities, I won't go too solo on these. Every one of them, with the exception of the last one, we did discuss at our last meetings. So the expansion of the intensive learning program, the reallocation of special education, specialized staff at the elementary, sorry. That I want to make sure we put that in there because I don't think we put that in there. So somebody take that note. So it actually says elementary in there. So sorry. Thank you. The adoption and implementation of our new SEL screener and district-wide curriculum. Continued expansion of our computer science and engineering program, bringing us down to having more middle school course offerings on a 3-year rotation or 3-year addition. We continue to fund our curriculum review and adoption cycle. And this is important. Anne Marie continues to work with DESE and the state to always make sure that we're up to snuff with us reporting all of information to them. And this is one of those questions that we have to answer: is are we not only following a cycle, but are we bringing that information forward to the school committee as we either bring a new curriculum or as we provide curriculum updates? So we'll continue to document that. Professional development, really, really excited. I want to give a much more thorough introduction of this, but Jody and I have the first partnership course kicking off on Monday. We're offering a graduate course to Rockport Public School educators, and we are co-teaching that course under the SNHU umbrella, and we have 11 staff members already enrolled, so it's, yeah, we're really, really excited. So we'll bring that back to you, but it is exciting. So we'll come back with more information once we get it going. We've talked about expanding our online learning opportunities and course offerings. I really, I've said it, I think 3 times in the past 2 weeks or since our last meeting in different meetings and in different forums, and I really think as a parent, as an educator in 2026, it is part of our duty to make sure kids graduate from our high school having minimally taken 1 class online. There are very few professions where there isn't PD or licensure or some kind of assessment or test done online nowadays. And so I do think, my son, when he went off to college a year ago, his roommate was on campus. 2 out of 6 of his classes were online asynchronous, even though he had a dorm and he was on campus because that's how they could offer the course. And so even when we send our kids away to the brick and mortar, they were actually still taking courses online. So I just want to make sure we're prepping all of our kids for that real world experience. Have great conversations about programmatic and facilities redesigns at our middle high school library that we will continue to talk about and move forward on. And I'll let Jody kind of take the lead on this one. This is the RES acceleration support model. We've looked at our data, we've looked at our staffing patterns, and my short version of this, just so that you understand how quickly I can turn to support this. When we talk about meeting the needs of our lowest 20% of students at grade level, and we look at our elementary data in numeracy and literacy, we realized that we had 2 professionals on the literacy side and only 1 on the math side, and which means we can only get to 50% of those kids, and that was really problematic. And the time is right for us to kind of fill that hole. So I'll let you kind of take the lead on this one.
Up until COVID, we had a math specialist and added a math interventionist. So there were 2 people to cover those areas of support. With the COVID funding, the math specialist was actually riffed out of the budget, replaced with a different role, which was still able to support math. So there was an interventionist who did the lowest 20%, and the specialist did the higher 20%. So coming into this, it was something that was dropped, and given all of the right sizing that has happened over the last few years, it didn't seem like the right time to try and fix this model. But coming into it this year and seeing the needs of those students and looking at where our deficiencies were popping up, it's the grade 3 through 5 students who are not getting the support that they need, because the Title I services the K through 2, and that's where it has to go first, based on those federal guidelines, that we need somebody who can provide that support to our 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders who are struggling as well. With Mrs. Waterman and I jumping in and really running our instructional support team meetings now, which is where we review student progress for students who are popping up with needs in any area. When we're trying to shift services or provide extra services for those students, it's hard. We can't do it. We can't shift someone's schedule every couple weeks to support one more student, because we still have to maintain the services for the K through 2, because once they're in Title I, they stay for the whole year. So we really, really feel that this will round out our acceleration support at all grade levels. This might seem like we're not focused on the middle high school, but the high school has the literacy acceleration specialist, the math acceleration specialist, and the core content teachers in grades 6 through 8, all supporting those needs in WIN. Whereas at the elementary school, we're doing push in and pull out services, but with less people to support that.
Yeah, and it also connects to the reality that, if we're not cracking the code by, now what do they say, end of second grade, you got to learn to read, then you read to learn. And I feel like over my 32 years that the cut line's been pushed down to the end of second grade. And so, we are supporting our students who are, in need at the high school, middle school level, but this is an important stopgap.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, this will bring it, so there'll be 2 reading literacy acceleration specialists and 2 math acceleration specialists.
Yep, that's correct.
At the elementary school now.
Yeah, and the split usually works. Somebody does K through 2 and somebody does 3 through 5 based on scheduling needs, but they overlap in the areas where they need to.
This will be a posted position? Yeah. It is not Title I, the new position.
It could be. It depends on the
could be,
hiring,
okay.
who ends up servicing whom.
Okay. So if it is Title I, is it not, you're not then, so I guess that was my question then, because that would, if the new position is Title I, that would be more 1st or 2nd grade, right? But then you would
But we move the
then you would
person
move
to,
somebody
yes.
up to
Yep, somebody else would
the
move.
higher
Mhm.
elementary.
Good. So barring the leadership team coming out with another last-minute need, I think we're in good shape. These staffing priorities and programmatic priorities will, as we've talked about publicly a lot, will dovetail with our strategy for district improvement. It will help us to stay on the mark, and we've had lots of conversations at this table recently about data and really having growth and achievement at the forefront of our conversations over time. So the hope here is all of these conversations, personnel changes and programmatic changes, are going to lead to students, particularly at the elementary level, closing gaps quicker than they have been over time.
I have one comment and one question. My comment is that I appreciate seeing the budget initiatives tied to the strategic plan, specifically tied to student achievement. my second question is my recollection, and it's foggy, but my recollection is that we've had conversations in past years where you've told us at the beginning of the process we have a $1.8 million budget gap. Now we have an $800,000 budget gap. Now we have a $250,000 budget gap, and that's what's going to have to come from reserve. Have I missed that this year?
No, this is the first year that we have not had a budget gap to close, primarily as a result of the 3 difficult years of right-sizing and making tough personnel and financial decisions.
So I just want to push again for anyone who is listening, because I think that we have the perception that there is never, ever enough money, and that Rockport doesn't have enough money to run a school system. I certainly hear that. I hear people who are very, very concerned about whether we're able to really run a system. And I hear you say that at the moment, there is enough money to run this system. Maybe not forever, maybe not in perpetuity. I don't hear you saying anything about next year or the year after. Do we need to... Please don't. I'm sorry if this throws a wrench, but I just think about how great the concern seems to be about the financial viability of a very small system. And a year where we don't appear to need to make any cuts.
Mm-hmm.
Is anybody else on the committee wondering about that? I'm turning bright red. I don't mean to raise I don't want to raise really difficult questions. It's just that for so many years, the conversation has been, how are we going to get there? This is brutally difficult. And I guess I'll just play the devil's advocate for 1 minute. Is there some reason that we should maybe urge you to try to trim things a little bit so that we can make it another year and another year and another year? Can you just speak to that sort of 20,000-foot question?
Yep.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
We're not in a position where we need to trim. I think I phrased it as delicately as I could my first year or so when I came in and took a good look at everything, that we were overstaffed. We were staffed for a model of anywhere between 850 to 1,000 students, give or take, depending what our class size desires were. So we are now, and when we say right size from a staffing standpoint, we are staffed based on our current enrollment and based on the projected enrollment that we have for the next 3 to 5 years. That's why we now can take a look at the budget and find those very few spots, and it's probably going to be very few, where we still have a staffing need, and this is one of those examples. We have roughly around $2 million in our reserves. That reserve is intended to help support the budget in a variety of ways. One of the ways it's supporting this budget, and you will see this in the final presentation, is that there will be a certain amount of dollars from the reserves that are going to be used to balance the budget. We don't want you to explain this tonight because I think it makes more sense with the budget book, so I'll just say it without the deeper explanation. The reserves get replenished every year. And we understand that process. And so because it gets replenished, let's say we're balancing the budget on X hundred thousands of dollars this year, we can estimate that the replenishment will be much more than the amount of money we're taking out of the reserves. So our reserves are healthy, and we project that they will remain healthy over a certain amount of time. I can't take 10 years, I can't say 7 years, but for the next 2-3 years, we're close to right. We're right around that healthy mark. I think
Very
we'll
confident with next year.
right. We're
I'll
super
leave it at
confident.
that.
Yeah.
I'm very
Yep.
confident with next year, and that we could
Yep.
possibly have a healthy reserve again. Would it be the same as this year?
Yep.
Maybe not. It might be less, but I still think it would be
It'll be healthy. And I am going to a legislative luncheon next month with all of the superintendents in the North Shore at our roundtable. And this continues, as I shared that memo with you at the last meeting, this continues to be one of our top conversational priorities. It's just to be able to say to our legislative reps, something has to change around Chapter 70 or Prop 2.5 or special ed transportation or any of the other mechanisms that are just forcing more and more of us to feel like we're financially drowning and that burden the taxpayers. So that's a slow-moving process. So any help that they can start to give us, and as long as we can remain fiscally conservative and really thoughtful about how we're using those reserves. And again, Anne Marie will tell us that we don't know what we don't know as far as our population changes, and we have to make sure we have enough money in the bank, so to speak, to educate all the students that come to us.
Maybe I'll just respond to your question about do we feel that we need to press or, and I think it goes back to so I'm a social worker, I'm not an educator, and that the school committee, we're all in that role of oversight, but we hired a superintendent who we trust, who then has his team who he trusts, and then we trust to let us know where that line is, right? Like I trust them to let us know where the line is, where they say, this is how much we're cutting to be fiscally responsible and use the taxpayers' money while still meeting the needs of all those students and moving the district forward. So I think that everyone has done a great job sort of walking that line, and I, trust them when they're presenting all this. That's kind of what I see. I see it as being like they're being flexible with that by saying, oh, we actually do need, this other position, but I have full trust that we're being presented with enough facts to, make us competent in our oversight role. But I sort of trust the superintendent and the team to help us understand where that line is.
Thank you. Are there any other thoughts?
I would just add that I think it's very impressive that, we've been also able to add to the programming with the Project Lead the Way and the WIN model and the ILP and these acceleration specialists, and to be able to add that and be competitive and to add servicing to our students and to add more programming, I think is really, really impressive. And I think that says a lot about our fiscal responsibility while keeping those student needs in mind. And I think that's, a really great job with the superintendent and the leadership team to be able to manage all that. So that's kind of what I take away from it all.
I appreciate those comments, and I appreciate your patience while we pause, because this conversation has been very different from last year, the year before, and the year before. We've had some tough contract negotiations. We've made very, very difficult decisions as a district, decisions that have been painful for people. And so to be at a point where we can kind of take a breath and, just as you say, Mark, strategically put things in place that really need to be there, is very impressive. And Nicole, I certainly agree with you. I trust that we have a superintendent and a team who can get this work done and will tell us what we need, and presents information in a way that lets us ask questions and understand. I think this is really hard work, and I think it's the culmination of years of work. And so I appreciate it. I appreciate how different it is from past years. It's kind of great.
It is great. It feels exciting to me.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
And I just want to end with, I think it's important in this kind of a forum to say thank you to the taxpayers. That we ask for the vote, we ask for the support every year, and every year the taxpayers step up and they support public schools, and that's a really challenging thing in today's time. It's expensive to run public education. And so when we stand there, we talk about public school being free. It's not free. We are all paying for it. And so we feel that burden to make sure we're meeting the needs of kids and using your money as wisely as we can. So thank you. So interesting shift as we continue to think about budgeting for next year. We have staff members who are already asking, when can we run field trips and when can we hold concerts? And it's, fascinating to sit here in the second meeting in January and already think about the calendar for next year. So you have a copy of this in the drive. This is our best guess right now. We really hope that it won't change again. So right now we're looking for your approval tonight so that we can put it out there and start to plan next year's calendar of events. The only flexible date is always that May early release because it's really connected to our prom. But right now we believe that is the day that we are focusing on. So.
My sense is that this calendar is very similar to the calendar we have this year. Things shift a little bit as the 1st of September might move, Labor Day moves around a little bit, but I think I'm seeing a winter holiday that's essentially the same, and that brings people back in on a Monday. And I think I see a February break and an April break, and I think I see a caveat with that last day of school on the 16th that says that is predicated on not too many snow days.
And we're really hoping that's true next year, because with the late Labor Day, that pushes that June 16th date, a good 4 or 5 days later than we are this year. So, so we're doing the no snow dance next year.
Other comments or questions from school committee members? All okay? Is this for our information, or would you like
I
a
would
vote?
like you to seek a motion to approve it.
Oh, I would like a motion to approve this calendar.
So moved.
In a second?
Second.
And all in favor, please say aye. Aye. There you go. That passes
you very much.
unanimously. All right. Finance, I see we do not have any. We've had quite a
was it.
good financial conversation tonight. That does bring us to school committee discussion. Anything for the good of the order? Nope. All right. Do we have a need for an executive session?
We do not.
All right, then I think I would thank everyone for attending tonight. Thank you for folks who give up their evening every other Wednesday to come and be with us, including people in the booth who televise this. We really appreciate it. With no further ado, I think we need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you so much. This meeting is